Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on your time frame reference. I'm Neil Freeberg, and I'm here to discuss M.T. Anderson's novel, Feed. Here's a copy here for all of you who want to look at it. Feed is a dystopian novel set in the not-too-distant future. It's taken from the first-person narrative style of the character of Titus, and Titus and his friends are visiting the moon, and they run into a girl named Violet, who later becomes the love interest of Titus throughout the novel. And while on a spring break vacation, they go to the moon, and Violet is invited out with them to a club where they encounter a hacker who taps into their feeds, and he's trying to essentially say, down with the feed, and utilizing their bodies to sort of say the message, because the feed is a brain implant that's actually like a mini computer inside your head, and it allows the person to, in a way, control your body almost as a puppet, a marionette more specifically. And the group has to have their feeds turned off for a little while, and as they're recovering in the hospital, Violet gets some rather disturbing news about some trouble with her feed, and she's dealing with that while Titus is also trying to pull the moves on her, or put the moves on her, rather. So Violet, again, she is not nearly as technologically advanced as she's very intelligent. Violet is very intelligent. However, she's been homeschooled, and Violet is also her parents they didn't want to get her a feed for a really long time because they didn't like what it would do potentially. Corporate control is very prominent throughout the novel, as it is a dystopian novel. And Violet's parents didn't want her to have the feed up until she was much older in life. And Titus has had the feed ever since he was very young, so he has never he cannot recall a time when he never had the feed. And there's a bit of a disconnect whenever Violet tries to communicate between Titus and Titus's friends, where she seems a little more intelligent than Titus and the rest of his friends. And whether or not that has something to do with the novel and sort of how people interrelate with one another and get over this intellectual barrier, or if that necessarily keeps them really apart, as well as Violet, and whether or not her feed malfunction, whether or not that grows worse. You'll just have to read the novel and find out and see what happens to Violet, and how Titus and his friends sort of deal with their new friend Violet, and sort of figure out how to overcome the diversity that sort of comes between those who can afford the feed and those who cannot. Because it wasn't just that Violet's parents didn't want her to have the feed, it was also because they couldn't afford it at the time, at least not when Violet was born. So I'm going to turn into the book to a certain section that I wanted to read, and this is shortly after Violet and Titus and their friends have recovered from the hospital, and they're at a party at Quendy's, and this is on page 88-89 in my text. If you wanted to follow along, this is an earlier edition, so I don't know if you have it. So I'll start. I went out to the bathroom. When I was done, I went back downstairs. Quendy and Violet were talking. Quendy was like, "Where is everyone?" But I didn't tell her they were getting scrambled in the master bedroom. Violet asked if I wanted to walk out in the yard for a minute, and I said, sure. So we went out. We were standing on the porch, and it was much cooler out there. The dome on the yard's pod was all blue, like it was night, which it was, I mean, up on the surface, but it was blue there at the house, too. We stood, leaning on the railing. The night was perfect. We shut out the music from the feed. It was funny, then, to look back in and see people moving to nothing. She said, "You're quiet." I nodded. "What's doing?" she asked. "No real one thing." We just stood there together. I said, "You didn't like the feature?" She said, "It was okay." "You didn't laugh." "I liked the mountains. All the pine trees. I'd like to go to the mountains. Wouldn't it be nice? With a fire?" I pictured the mountains, and the fire, and the snowball fight, and let's get out of these wet clothes, and I said, "Yeah, sure." "I want to get out to the country," she said. She looked at me. "What's really doing?" I couldn't tell her about the guys going in mall. I didn't want her looking at them while they were on the wall-to-wall carpeting and doing the quiver. I didn't want her to look at them as if she was sorry. Finally I said, "People have just gone so quick back to like before." "Why?" she said. "What happened?" I didn't tell her about them upstairs. I just told her about sitting in the living room and hearing the guy, who was like the truffle was undervalued, and the girl, who was like he never pukes when he chug-a-lugs. I told her about them, and then I looked for the memory of them, which I still had, and I played it for her. She knew exactly what I was talking about.